Okay, so this video is covering the 5 methods we've learned to solve quadratic equations and really discussing about when we should use one method or the other. So first we learned factoring in 7.5 to 7.8. The advantages to this are that it can be quick, okay? So it can be quick if you're good at factoring, or if it just looks like something you could easily find the numbers aren't too big. However, some expressions are not factorable. So there's times where they have decimals, or maybe it says, okay, name two numbers that multiplies to 20 and adds to 3, and you're like, that's not possible. So sometimes just they're not factorable. Doesn't mean they don't have solutions, it just means you can't find them through factoring. Okay, the second method we learned was graphing. So, this is great if you have some quick, easy way to graph, or you have a calculator. So, what's kind of good here is you can easily see the number of real solutions. Like, you can tell how many times it goes through that x-axis just by glancing. It's also good when you need approximate answers. So I'm going to put the little squiggly equals, meaning approximate. So if you need rounded solutions, it's great. And it's obviously really good if you have a calculator. So when it's not good, it can be time consuming. If the numbers are too big, then they can be hard to fit on the graph. But also, it may not give you the exact solution. So if you're trying to be very specific and not, have a rounded answer, you may not be able to tell if something's 3.6 or 3.7, something like that, and it may not just be obvious what the solution is. Okay, square roots, they only work when it's in the form like x squared equal to something, or parentheses, like x plus a number, I'm going to put just a number there, equals to something. That's when they work. But if you have x squared plus 2x minus 3, and it's in standard form, and you have that bx, that 2x, it doesn't work for that type. Okay, so doesn't work when in this form or in this format. Okay, completing the square, it'll work, it'll be fine. But it's the easiest when the a value is equal to 1. So the number in front of x squared is just x squared. There's not 3x squared. And it's also best when the b value is even. Because when you divide that to break it up into completing the square, then you don't end up with decimals. So it just kind of helps. It's difficult when a is not equal to 1, or if b is odd. Okay, and then the quadratic formula is nice because it gives exact solutions. If you don't round off when you do the square root, it can give exact solutions. It's a complicated formula, so that's kind of a negative, is that it's definitely a longer formula than we've done in the past. And then the other thing I'd say is if you had not in a standard form, if you were in vertex form, or if you were in intercept form, it wouldn't be the method I would choose. So I'm going to say it's not good for non-standard forms. So if I was in vertex form, I would not multiply it all out and use the quadratic formula. I'd use square roots. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So let's discuss choosing a method. So on this one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that 1 back over by subtracting. I subtract 1 from both sides, so now it's in standard form. Okay, so we could do this and we could say what multiplies to -1 and adds to -10. But nothing works, so we can't factor it. Okay, we could graph it. That wouldn't be a bad thing. I will tell you that I tried this one graphing and it has decimal answers, so it really doesn't work out great. So what that leaves me with, I can't square root because it has a 10x, so if it has something with that x, you can't do it. And so I'm down to either completing the square or quadratic formula. Let's do completing the square because since that x squared does not have a number in front of it, it's just a is 1, And since the b value, the 10, is even, it's really nice to complete the square. And I also think it's a great review. So remember what we did is we did x squared minus 5x minus 5x, because I took negative 10x divided by 2. That makes x minus 5 and x minus 5. Okay, and so then the number that completes the square here is 25. So you put 25 here and 25 on that side. All right, from there, this is 26. The left side, x squared minus 10x plus 25, is the same as x minus 5 squared. And where we find that from is right here, x minus 5 times x minus 5. That's how we write this as x minus 5 squared. Okay, and then to solve, we're going to solve using square roots. So we have the squared, and we're going to square root both sides. Okay, so that, if you just put in square root 26 in your calculator, it's about 5.1 and about negative 5.1. Now add your 5 over. So your answer is about 10.1, and add your 5 over. Your answer is about negative 0.1. And they're approximate symbols because when we did the square root of 26, we rounded. Okay, so when I look at this next one, I definitely can't do square roots because it has this 13 and x right here. Factoring is okay, but since the a value is not 1, it's kind of longer to factoring, but it would work. So factoring's not bad. I would be okay with factoring. But looking at it, honestly, on this one, I would do quadratic formula because of, not being quite as quick to factor. But factoring wouldn't be a bad choice right here. It definitely does check out. Okay, so negative 13 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So we get 13, get a 4 on the bottom. The discriminant, the number underneath the square root, is 361, which if you plug in your calculator, the square root of 361 is 19. All right, so if you do 13 plus 19 and divide by 4, and 13 minus 19 and divide by 4. All right, you get 8 from 13 plus 19 and then divide by 4. And when you subtract, you get negative 1.5. Okay, looking at this one, I see that it's just x squared. The in front is a 1. This is even, so I could complete the square. I could also do quadratic formula. I could not do square root because of this 8x. It's not possible. But I could also factor. So I'm going to try to factor this. It looks pretty easy. So remember, we need two numbers that multiply to AC. AC is 12, and they have to add to B. B is 8. So that's 2 and 6. And remember, this is the easy kind of factoring where you don't have to do the box because it starts with just x squared. There's no number besides 1 in front of the x squared. Okay, so then we set each of these equal to 0. And we subtract the 2 and we get negative 2, and we subtract the 6 and we get negative 6. And those are our two answers. All right, and then last but not least, this one right here is perfect for square roots. How I know is because it's only this x squared. There's no x. So this is perfection for square roots. So I'm going to do 9x squared equals, I added the 5 to both sides, so now I have 9. I divide by 9. You've got to get x squared by itself before you square root. Okay, I have x squared equals 1. Now that x squared's by itself, now I square root. This is the time to do it. And the square root of 1 is 1 and negative 1.